To me, it's downright scary and unnerving to know that everything that our parents and grandparents have fought for is slowly being taken away from us. What's your thoughts, Tony?
I have to agree that it is very scary. As I come in each evening, from my grown-up job, uh, I turn on the news and that's all that I'm hearing about. But you know what? I don't know why we're so surprised.
Hmm.
I, although that, people of color have made great strides when we talk about uh, fairness as far as, the equal rights to vote and so many other things that have been uh, put in play for those who have come before us. I don't know why we're surprised because we have to face the fact that this was this was something that was fought against many, many, many years ago. Okay, and in a lot of ways, it was still fought against up through now. Where it is that there are some states where still on the books we have to regenerate a law for equal rights. We have to regenerate a law that tells us that we're equal. We have to do all these things, and these are still in play, still in many, many states, that we have to re-up our rights, as Black people, as people of color. So I don't know why we're surprised. I mean, it's awful to hear, because then it delves into our psyche as a reality, right? But I don't know why we're surprised. This is something that we should have been fighting for all through the course of the history after the Civil Rights Bill was put in place. But somehow we got laxed. And this is the result of that laxness. It's a result of it. But I don't know why we are so surprised that these
Hmm.
things are happening, because it's going to be a repeat of history every 4 to 8 years. It's always going to be, what no matter what party sits as the majority uh, in our legal system. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. We're still having to fight these fights every single day, year after year.
Yeah. And it seems like, the biggest thing, my problem is, it seems like we have gotten so complacent and so comfortable with our lives as blacks that we just feel like, hey, we here, we arrived, we don't have nothing to be concerned about. You've got now a group of Chinese American parents fighting affirmative action at Yale University. Okay,
Right.
because it's and a group of conservative Chinese Americans, because they want to make sure that their kids can get the best education in the world. So they're trying to stop affirmative action, and with the Supreme Court that we have now it could be permanently banned in the educational areas with concerning affirmative action. Now, in the workplace, I think it died years ago in the workplace. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, it was a time that you knew you could get a position and job because of the color of your skin. But I think
Yeah.
affirmative action went out 25 years ago in the business world. I just really
But
think it did.
still, right, but still, we cannot be complacent. We cannot be comfortable, because the moment that we talk about affirmative action going away is when we're going to start having problems.
Hmm.
We know that it's in place, but although it's that unsaid rule, that there has to be an equal balance of people of color uh,
Hmm.
against whites, in the workplace and schools and other places. Even though that balance is there, the moment uh, that goes away, then that's where the problems are going to start to step in again.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, you're right. We have become complacent. We've become comfortable, but still, that does not mean that we have the rights that we're supposed to have. It doesn't. You can never get comfortable, because all of this stuff is just a replay, century after century. Decades after decades. It's repeating itself. It always
Yeah,
will.
It definitely, most definitely is. Um, when you look at some of the things Republicans are doing as far as putting up all these barriers, especially Texas is trying to. The Texas Attorney General came out Sunday on a Sunday morning talk show and said that if it hadn't been for the state Supreme Court putting a stop to mailing out applications for uh, mail-in ballots in Harris County, Texas, which is the county where Houston is, and it's one of the
Right.
largest counties in Texas. He said that Biden would have won the race in Texas by at least 3%. And he even said there was voter suppression, and he was proud of it. He said they had to do what they had to do to try to keep that vote down. So he said, yeah, we suppressed the vote. You know, so I mean, something he was proud of.
You know, I think what unnerves me is that, you know, you and I and Chara and so many other people, we pay attention to the news. We pay attention to what is going on, right? But I think what unnerves me most is that when I say they, I'm talking about the right. I'm talking about the most conservative, right? But I think what unnerves me most is that they really think that people are stupid, you know, through all of this voter suppression. I mean, do they really think that we're going to like sit on our hands and not have anything to say? Do they think that we're going to sit on our hands and not show action? But then my question, and I really wish I had someone on here that we could talk to who was a conservative. Because my question is, what are you so afraid of that you have to continue to fight against us for something that could be good for all of us? You know, I that's where I'm not understanding. I'm just not understanding, you know, but here we are. So what do we do as a Black community?
Yeah. But you got to look at the thought process of how they feel in the right wing conservative community. I have a friend who's white. Him and I are friends. He's a minister. He's you know, over the years he has turned really to the right as an evangelical conservative preacher and has a large national following. And I was just going through Facebook Saturday night, and he made some comments to me that were kind of off the wall, especially when he called Black Lives Matter a Marxist group. Now we are going to talk about this because I'm gonna call him up one day and say let's go out to lunch, and I'm gonna jump into this case.
What I want you to do is see if you can get him on the show.
You know, hey, I probably can, but see what has happened with him is he has gone so deep into the Bible that he feels like the Bible should be the driving force when it comes to how you deal with national issues. Okay, so like Franklin Graham's nephew had called him and told him he was proud of the way he speaks the Bible and speaks the word. Okay, so you have a group, and we've always said this, that the right wing evangelical people feel like their way is the only way to run this country. Okay, and using biblical principles to run the country. There's a certain way that you got to run this country, which is wrong because what you're doing, you're trying to take the Bible and interpret it the way you want to interpret it to further your goals.
That's what I was just thinking. Okay? That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. So I made a post the other night, you know, that we call ourselves Christians and we call ourselves God-fearing people and everything. I said, but how can we be Christians when it's a group of y'all out there that look at me and don't like me because of the color of my skin? So how can you call yourself a Christian?
Exactly.
You know, and so I hope he read that to see what I was saying concerning what he was saying, because you do look at me in a different light. You know, And so that's the thing. See, and like I told somebody today who's a Republican, I said the next time you get a chance, I want you to go down to D.C. to the Bible Museum, the Christian Museum, the Bible Museum, and you'll see there the slave Bible where they took out scripture that talked against slavery
Yeah.
because they didn't want the slaves were learning how to read the Bible and see that in there and say, oh, wait a minute, we're being treated wrong. We're not supposed to be slaves.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why
So,
you have so much missing from the Bible.
yeah,
But then there are those who don't believe that. They think it's
yeah,
written exactly to the word, and it's not.
yeah,
And if you are, and even if you are a true, what is it, theologist? What is it? Right.
theologian.
Theologian. Right. Then that even tells you that you are supposed to study in the true word, but you won't admit that there are missing books, not just pieces, books of the Bible. And it is your responsibility to seek that information out and talk the truth. You know, speak the truth to the people if you really are, if you are so urged to be this evangelist, you know, to speak the word. You are responsible for picking those things out and making sure that it's put in an order for people to actually take hold of.
Yeah.
You
know? So you know, so that's how the slave owners work. They want to make sure nothing got in the way of their quote unquote so-called investment. That they say, okay, let me manipulate the word. We want them to be Christians. Okay, they want us to be part of something that we found ourselves on the African continent. Okay, we were already Christians, or we were either Muslims, depending on what part of Africa you were living in. You know, we had already started, and people don't realize the Christianity is seen today as a known. The Europeans took it back to, you know, they found it in Africa and took it back to Europe with them and designed it in a way that benefited them.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
mean, we were doing fine in slavery. Well, I mean, we were doing fine before they came and got us and put us in slavery in our own countries.
Yes, yes, sir.
You know, but it goes again to show how you can take some product and get another tribe to give up another tribe for liquor and guns and things of that nature, and that's all that happened.
Yeah, and I think that's what is part of the unnerving for me, because just with that statement that you just made alone, it sets so true as to where we are when we talk about our government, you know, our federal government, and how these, you know, these government offices are run. You know, how these people come in and they twist things to make it so that it fits the narrative. You know, just the way that you were just talking about, you know, the Bible and the interpretation is the same exact people. But I think what ultimately surprises me, because there are people here in this country, we have some of the smartest people in this country that just believe some of the dumbest shit. And I hate to say it on your show, but it is just, it does not fit right with me. You can be the most highly educated person, have the most street smarts that any person could have, right? And you will listen to that twisted narrative and take it as rule and law and think that's the way this is supposed to work, when the country is falling apart and falling down and you can't even see that this is happening. This is what is crazy. This is what is ultimately crazy, because it's all on interpretation. All up interpretation, but people are not able to critically think and see the ins and outs of these things that these folks are peddling to them. That's what I don't get. It's the same thing as how the Bible is interpreted. Same way with politicians. They'll twist things. You know? I don't know.
When you look at politicians and politics, all it is like you said, someone comes in every 4 years and manipulates things the way they want it. Okay, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always said, if you are rich or you are very poor, then government affects you. Okay.
Absolutely.
If you're in between in the middle, in the so-called middle class, what goes on doesn't affect you. Okay. I think the most important thing for us is our right to vote and try to make changes. Okay. But you can't do it because, like right now, as bad as this country is falling apart, you've got a Republican minority leader in the Senate saying, my main job is to defeat anything that Biden puts out. Okay, you know,
But
we
it's asinine, right?
mm-hmm,
That's
yeah.
asinine.
So the country is falling apart. You got bridges with the boats and stuff. You go across a bridge and stand down at the bottom of the bridge and look up, you see boats and stuff jumping out.
Right.
Infrastructure stinks here in America. Okay, it stinks. And what's going to happen, God forbid, there's going to be a major old bridge that's going to fall apart, and hundreds of people's lives are going to be lost because of the squabbling, not respecting what the president wants to do, and putting your own thoughts and ideas above what the president wants to do.
But see, I get the fact that we put our trust in our local and state and federal government officials. I get that, right? Because we vote them in to be our voice. But the sad part is that over these last several years, we don't have a voice through politicians. We honestly do not have, because no matter how many people say, let's take McConnell, for instance, no matter how many people in the state of Kentucky had voted for him or not voted for him, he doesn't give a shit about it either. He really doesn't. He's making decisions on his own personal feelings, not consulting with his constituents at all. And that's what happens when we don't hold politicians that we vote into office. We don't hold them accountable. Because you can't tell me that, all of the people or all the constituents for all of these politicians that we have in office are truly speaking for the people. They're not.
No, they're not.
They're looking at their own political gain, whether it's a gain or decrease. They're looking at their own personal feelings, how it affects their own family, which none of this shit will, because they're making well over $300,000, $400,000 a year. With all of the things that they've got going on, not to mention, book deals and all of these different things and speaking engagements, you name it, they run the gamut on it. Okay. They don't care about us little people. So we do have to change the game. We have to change the game.
Yeah. Well, the only way you can change the game and get rid of some of these old fogies that's been in there for a lifetime, you got to have term limits. You've got to figure out somehow to get things turned around and put term limits in, because a lot of these guys don't want to give up their prestige and lose the seat that pays up close to $200,000 a year. Okay. When you look at Joe Manchin from West Virginia, okay, so what if you lose your next election? Do the right thing.
Exactly.
Stop thinking about 2024 when you run again, which is 3 years down the road. That you're in a state where you could very well lose. You always come close to losing, but you win. Do the right thing. Don't look at don't look at the money you're going to lose.
Yeah, but see, you know what? And that's where I think with Joe Manchin, lately I've been a little bit perturbed with him, and it basically stems around, the filibuster.
Right.
And we have to look at the fact that why is he not understanding that filibuster is tied to everything that's Jim Crow? Everything. Why isn't he understanding it? But not only that, when we take it a little further, then why don't the rest of his party see that it's important that we do get rid of the filibuster. That's just a way of controlling how blacks and people of color vote.
Yeah.
It controls what we have to say. It controls how much we get involved. It controls everything down to how much toilet paper you want to buy for the week.
Yeah.
It controls everything because it says that no matter what we want to go on in our state and our federal government, it can be shut down by simply filibustering, whatever it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah. Now, he had a meeting today with civil rights leaders, okay, here in Washington, okay, and basically it's a Washington Post article, and it said, okay, I lost my spot. Okay, Manchin said the meeting was constructive, respectful, informative, and excellent at various points in a brief exchange with reporters. But asked whether talking to the civil rights leaders, who included the heads of the NAACP, the National Urban League, and other groups, had changed his views, the senator said they had not. I ain't gonna say the word. They effing racist.
You want me to say it?
No, that's okay. Effing racist, okay? He's being a racist, and that's how I look at it. When he sits and say, now I know that these civil rights leaders in that meeting poured their hearts out to him to do the right thing, because our right to vote and rights to do other things in this country is being challenged, okay? But he said it hadn't changed his views. The senator said that nothing they said changed his views. Okay, so that just shows how hardcore he is, and he's not looking beyond to see how what he does affects the people of this country, and especially people of color. He's looking out for his own, blankety blank butt as a white politician. Okay? With a white politician, okay?
But see, and that's where I think, Reggie, and I hate to cut you off, but see that part right there, I can't understand why nobody continues to challenge him. I mean, challenge him on those things. I don't understand why people are so afraid to challenge these politicians when they are doing things that is only for their own well good. I don't get it. And everybody stands behind and says, what they're doing, what they're supposed to do. Bullshit. They're not. They're not working for us. They're working for them because they can't think about, like you said, regarding the term limits, they can't think about losing that seat and having to go out and get a real job. They don't want to lose that money. No way and no how. That's why they don't do what they're supposed to do for the people. It's about them, their well-being.
Well, I think one of the things this is one of the ways you could really get Manchin's really upset him. What Biden should do, if I was Biden, I would favor the Republican senator from West Virginia, okay? As far as doling out money for projects that they want to get done in West Virginia, because if him and the lady from Arizona marginalized and isolated, sooner or later they get the message that they need to start working with the president. Okay, like I tell people, it's not the Republicans that are going to keep Biden from getting his agenda through. It's two Democrats.
Yeah.
That are doing him in.
It's crazy.
And it's frustrating because he won't vote for HR1, but he still has a lukewarm feeling about voting for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, okay? But he said he feels more comfortable voting for that than voting for HR1. But still, even the John Lewis bill is going to be a watered down bill. It's not going to do enough, to protect our voting rights. Okay, it's not going to do enough, and so it's just damn frustrating when you look at what we have to go through to try to be citizens of the United States.
Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. And, you know, and I was, as I was sitting behind the scenes on your show last night, and you and I forget her name already. Nice lady though that you had on your show, Judy
Yeah.
Smith. As you guys were talking about, you know, this country and how so many people are now leaving this country and going to Africa. You know, I thought about it, and I think I sent you some information on, you know, relocating
Yeah, you did.
to Africa. Yeah, but that's even a scary thing, you know, because now we would be leaving a country that is it's in peril. This country is in peril. And we've got to figure out, okay, what's the next move? And even leaving this country, going to places such as Africa, you know, now we're giving up something that we have ultimately known all of our lives, you know, to now face a different kind of government. And will we be happy with that? So, I mean, the world is changing largely, and it's not just here in the United States, but I don't think I've ever heard of this country being in such a shamble as I have right now. I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever read anything that comes it comes close.
Yeah. Well, it started out with your boy, you know, because he came in and with Charlottesville said exactly what people wanted to hear him say. You know, because his scary butt was always being too scared to do the right thing because he didn't want to lose his base. Mm-hmm. So once he figured out a way where he could maintain his base, it was game on. Okay, so he allowed, you know, the racism and to rear its ugly head. Okay. Secondly, what you have from the white community, and not all of them, but for some members of the white community, you have they're scared of losing their status here in America, which by 2050 they probably will have lost it, okay, or if not before, you know, because this shows you how scary they are when they get on news conferences and say that Biden is trying to bring allow more people of color to come in this country so they can replace them. Well, if you're so worried about, you know, your numbers going down, you better start stroking your wives and your women and get them pregnant, okay?
Okay. And do something.
Yeah, do something. Start making some babies if you that worried. I mean, the numbers are gradually going down, so they are so scared of losing their status as being the majority race. Hey, one time I thought blacks would be the majority race. We're not even going to be the majority race because Hispanics and Latinos are going to be the majority.
Exactly.
You know, they probably going to change the name. We're going to be northern Mexico, okay? You know, so that's the thing we got to watch out for. You know, that's what the thing they're watching out for. They're scared of losing their status and ended up being number 3 on the totem pole.
Yeah, but that's the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it's not ridiculous because it's bound to happen. Because when we look at population rates, we look at the census. It's starting to really turn a little dark. You know. But it is what it's going to be. It's going to be.
You know, so I mean, they need to have some babies. I mean, that's just the bottom line of it. You know, if you're so scared. You know, you just need to start having some babies. So you have a minority of people that are really trying to hold on to power, and they're really are willing to do anything to maintain control of the White House and the legislative branch.
So let me ask you this question, because as you speak of population and minority versus majority, do you think that has a lot to do with the reoccurring conversation and taking another look at Roe versus Wade? Because now you've got more southern states who are leaning towards the abortion issues. You know,
Well,
what state was that made it? They just it's
Texas,
on. Yeah, was it Texas? Where it
6 weeks.
doesn't matter if it's rape or not. No,
Oh, that was
this
Mississippi. That was Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah, Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mississippi.
yeah.
So, I mean, do you think it's to that extent where they say, okay, well, no, we just, we got to have the babies? And
Well,
you think
that's gonna be, but then that's still gonna be a mixture of babies, even if they control abortion. Because you got many women of color, white women. You got all women from diverse backgrounds who have abortions. Okay, I think a lot of what you have when it comes down to fighting abortion has come from the church. Okay, those right wing evangelical, conservative people. That's where that has come from. Okay, you know, um, I don't think a lot of us, especially in the black community, are in favor of abortions. Okay, but you have to look at it as a ability for a person to make their own decision about what they want to
right,
do, whether it be
right,
the right decision or the wrong decision. Okay, and so it's a way for the Republicans to control the narrative. Okay, and that's why they were so hell bent on making the Supreme Court um, conservative, because we
hmm
don't know where this court would go. We
right,
just don't know, especially when it comes to civil rights. Okay, now
right,
granted, they push back on all these cases that 45 people were taken to them concerning voting issues. Okay, and they refused to get involved with the issues when it came down to voting. They threw those lawsuits out. But what's to say in 2024 that they don't make that decision, they don't change their mind and go with the flow?
You
You know,
think they would?
yeah, you just don't know. I mean, they want. It's scary because the thing about it, the Republicans want to create a government, a country where they stay in control for 50, 60 years.
That ain't gonna happen.
You know.
It ain't gonna happen. And the reason why I say that
Hmm.
is because even though there is this great need to disenfranchise, people of color when it comes to voting, I don't think that people of color are going to allow that kind of narrative to be pushed.
Hmm.
I really don't. Because I think that in the last 2 years, I think that people, for the most part, I think that they have become a lot smarter because of what we've had to see
Hmm.
and witness throughout a pandemic, throughout the election process of a new president. I think that people have become smarter when it comes to politics. You've got
Hmm.
more young people now out here protesting, you know, unlike what we've ever seen before. So I
Hmm.
think that people have become a little bit smarter when it comes to politics and how the political arena works. And I think that they're getting it. But it's just I think the scary part of it is that they know it, but they won't put their best foot forward. Um, that is my fear, but I know that we're smarter than we have ever been. There are terms in politics that none of us probably have ever heard that we've heard within the last year or two, but, you know,
Hmm.
I never knew what an insurrection was, you know, I mean, because it's never been a part of our lives, but now it is, you know, I,
Well, it wasn't a resurrection. What it was just a group of tourists. It just happened to be a large group of people in D.C. that day that wanted to tour the Capitol.
are
To hear
you
them talk about it,
peddling that
look,
untruth?
to hear them talking about it, even after they wanted to hang them, they they said no, these people were just here visiting the Capitol. They just wanted to meet their local representatives and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. They always trying to paint the narrative. Now, look, If we had been up there that day, turn that daggone capture up as black folks,
You know
Lord,
what?
how we probably lost. We probably had about 200, 300 people killed.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it showed in the summer how they would react to us last summer when they were doing the Black Lives Matter protests and everything, and how at the Capitol everybody was in riot gear, ready to protect the Capitol and all this kind of stuff. What people don't realize, okay, especially people in the white community, especially conservatives and Republicans, that it's been almost 20 years ago that we came to Washington for the 1 million man march,
Right.
and none of us went to jail.
There was no problems whatsoever.
Okay, 1
Amazing,
million people.
right?
Now, how would they stop 1 million people from overrunning the White House and the Capitol? We could have split up in groups.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were so scared that we were going to come to D.C. and tear D.C. down.
Yeah.
We did.
But then 20 years later, we see who's really out there doing the damage.
Yeah. When Martin Luther King had the march on Washington, Lyndon Johnson and all those guys begged him not to do the march because they were scared all we were going to do to come to Washington and tear up the city. Nothing happened.
But you know what? And then that just goes back to the stereotypes that have been built around people of color. I mean, it's like what we do is always going to be something of darkness. It's always going to be something that is of the negative nature. It's always going to be something that is tied to violence. Always going to be something that is going to be bad because it is us. And that is something that has been going on for all of our lives, all of our history. You know, it's always tied to something that is bad. But then when you see it on the flip side and you see that these were white folks that were storming the Capitol, they are called visitors, right? They're called tourists. How could that happen? You know, lily white folks don't do that. But we all saw it with our eyes. But yet and still, you've got politicians who blatantly will stand up and say, oh, no, that didn't happen. You know, I didn't see that it was violent. I didn't see that they wanted to hang the vice president of the United States. You're not going to, oh, no, we're not going to take any kind of responsibility for that. But you can tear gas peaceful protesters of all colors who were there at the White House for a photo op. Tell me how.
Upside down Bible.
Yeah, right? Holding a Bible upside down. Tell me how that works. You know, but it's always going to be that. You know, and it's sad to say, and I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, like this negative Nelly or anything like that. But I look at things on facts and history. That's the way I look at things, you know, and we've lived through this before, and that was in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s. Now here we are in 2021. Now we're recapturing the history that we're living within. That's what we're doing. We're recapturing and living our history.
And we have given so much to this country as blacks. We have so many inventions that we have that we have created as blacks. If they want us out of the country, give us all our money for our inventions and give us our inventions and let them take it. This country will suffer.
You can't even tell me how much it will suffer. It would. You're talking about going down.
Yeah. See, they think white. See, there's a lot of people in the white community think they invented the potato chip. No, the potato chips that you eat were invented by a black man. Okay, simple as that.
Exactly.
You know,
so many different things.
So
many different things. You know, but we're looked at as the negative. You know, black and negative. You know, like we can't have anything that's peaceful. Like we don't live in communities where we want our communities safe and we want our communities clean and a community for our children to grow and to prosper. we're not supposed to have that because we are black. You know, that's why there's so much fight in making sure that they try and get to a point of taking the vote away, because then we don't have a voice, and that's what it's about.
We're not supposed to be that smart.
Absolutely not. But I tell you what, I'm gonna be a lynch little black woman because I ain't shutting up.
That's what happening in the Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
In Tulsa and Greenwood.
Absolutely.
Because jealousy drove a group of white people to destroy everything that blacks had built during that time, because they weren't getting the money out of the black community, because the black community was staying in the community. Now they say that money. They said that money stayed in the community, in the black community, about 36 times it got turned over.
Yeah.
But economists from out at one of the universities in California wrote a book that the economy still wouldn't made it off of that, because you can't segregate money, okay? Sooner or later, that money has to flow out of that community.
It has to stall, right, because it'll stall. It has to stall.
It has to go out to the whole community.
Right.
But what they were doing, they were making it, they were doing it. Okay? And that just made those group of people mad.
Because you know what I think with the Tulsa situation, I had thought about this before. It just took one incident for an excuse. One incident. Because, they were looking across the track and seeing that community thriving. You know, they saw what was going on. They never would go into their community.
Right.
But across the track, they could see, you know, that they were thriving. And they were trying to figure out, how do we bring these Negroes down? And all it took was one incident. That's it. It didn't matter whether or not he touched her. It didn't matter or not if he tripped and put his hands on her. It didn't matter. It just needed one. Because if you looked at the documentary that was on CNN, that was produced by LeBron James, and I can't remember the other brother's name, but it states it so clearly. They needed one excuse. And even with all that had happened, and the burning of this city and the killing of these black brothers and sisters, you didn't hear the names of these two individuals in this elevator as much as it should have been mentioned. It didn't matter. It did not matter. All it took was just one thing, and it could have been a black cat attacking a white cat. It could have been anything.
And look, they forgot that he put the guy in jail.
Exactly.
They got so focused on burning. They got so focused on burning Black Wall Street down.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, and you know it's so much hatred when you take an airplane and you then drop bombs. You know, that's just pure hatred. Hatred.
Bombs.
Exactly. You know, so I don't know. The country is in a mess. And speaking of Black Wall Street, you know, you're talking about people who don't want to engage in what is truth when it comes to history. You don't want people to take responsibility, because it's nothing worse than a white person who hates black people have to eat crow and say that, I was wrong.
And it seemed like the ancestors of those white killers would speak up and say, "Look, I'm sorry for my family for what they did."
That's
like the mayor who in Tulsa, he's Republican. His family was tied up in the mess. He said a couple of years ago, when he started looking into the Tulsa massacre and started looking at, trying to bring criminal charges against someone, which has still been pretty hard to do because a lot of them are dead now, but at least you would have had something on paper. So he got a call from this one older white lady in Tulsa, and she said, "What you trying to do? Make our families look bad?" He said,
Exactly.
"Heck, my family was involved in it too." So that's how they're scared. Just like a lot of these Southern whites and probably Northern whites and Western and Eastern whites, their families were slaveholders. Get over it. Your family was part of history, and that's something you cannot whitewash. That's why they're so. That's why they're so stuck on not teaching the 1619 project. Okay.
Exactly.
That's why they hate critical race theory, because it shows that your ancestors and probably you are a racist. Okay. You have racist tendencies and you support racism.
You're right. You're right.
So one of the things I thought of too is that in order to further the critical race theory and to further understanding of the 1619 project, the community organizations and churches need to start having classes on this. Okay, they need to teach the young people what history is all about. My kids know. Well, my kids, they grown now, but my grown kids, they understand. Children, they understand Black history because I always taught it.
And I did too, and I think that's why Cameron is so militant. Because, so that's my fault. That is my fault.
You brought that California. You brought that California gangster into him. That's what you did,
right? But it's important though. It is important. It's important that they learn it, and it's okay to have certain feelings about it. You should be angry that these things were going on, because anger produces change. Okay, it makes you get up off your tail and make some change. So it's okay to be angry, and I don't know why people are so insistent on putting the blinders on and not stepping up to say, you know what, I really want to hear the truth. I really need to know what's going on. I really need to hear this from a Black person, because a lot of times if a white person hears something from a Black person and they actually put their listening on, okay, it's not just the listening, it's the passion, it's the pain. You can feel it in their voices. You can see it in their faces. And that's the part that is the disconnect of history, is people want to whitewash it. They don't want to face the truth because they're so afraid of the emotional ties that will come forward. You have to be emotional about it. You have to be passionate about it. And that's what is needed. It's needed.
I was talking to this white Republican today, and he kept saying, he said in 2022 they're gonna liberate Congress and get about 60 seats, and they're gonna get about 6-7 seats in the Senate. And I said, why?
Right.
He said, why? I said, what makes you think that? And everything. So we can't continue the conversation. He was talking about, that Warnock should never got elected because some of the things he said in the pulpit. I said, I would say the same thing in the pulpit myself. Exactly. I said, I'm just like that. And everything. He said, what about him getting $39 million? I said, look, most people in the Black community don't pay attention to campaign donations. I said, what drove us to the polls was y'all's actions as Republicans to try to take our vote, and that what drove us to the polls. I said, that's what's going to drive us to the polls from now on out. Every time y'all come at us and try to take away a right from us, we're going to show you how we can stand in line for 13, 14 hours, and we're going to vote.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That's why I'm saying we are smarter than we were.
Yeah. So So I said, so he wanted to bet me. He said, we'll do 500 to 1. If you win, I'll give you $500. If I win, you only have to give me $100. I said, man, no, I don't even bet like that. I said, I just know we're gonna win. I said, you guys are not gonna win those 60 seats. I said, you might take some seats. I said, but you're not gonna win those 60 seats. I said, you're not gonna flip the Senate either. I said, because we're gonna be out there voting. I said, why are y'all? I asked the question. I said, why are y'all scared of the Black vote? I said, why are y'all trying to make it so hard for Blacks to vote? I said, why? He couldn't say nothing. I said, you all have pushed our backs against the wall, and we're going to vote every chance we get.
you know what? Thank God for people like Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Thank God for people like Stacey Abrams, because I think in a lot of ways, not only did the situation of the last 2 years make us smarter, but she was able to make people smarter and see what happens if you don't vote. You know, like I said, you got to know your history. If you don't, we are doomed. We are doomed as a people. We are doomed as a nation. And if you don't know your history, then you can't follow it up with something that you're supposed to learn about your today and something you're supposed to learn about how you're going to get to tomorrow. So, you know, it's all important. It's all relevant.
Yeah. It's a group out here now. I saw him on Cross on Tiffany Cross show the other morning. It's the organization is Black Folks Matter. And I said, you know, it would be good if we could hook up with him sometime.
I think I saw him on, what did I see? Did I see him on Sunday, Meet the Nation? Or
yeah, well, I know he was on Tiffany Cross show on Saturday.
Was it that show? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a brother that he's doing some things. He is doing some things.
Then, you know, I said it'd be good if we could get him on the show just to talk about, because as we have opportunities to speak about situations going on in the Black community, we need to start highlighting issues that are going on in the Black community, and hopefully our listeners will take what we say and hear what we say, digest and take it to their friends and stuff, and talk about it. You know, that's the only way. So, because the Republicans are working underground to make sure that their vote gets out, we got to make sure that our people are going out and voting in these states, these red states. Okay, we can turn these red states.
Absolutely, I truly believe that.
Because I was listening to, also a Hispanic was on Tiffany Cross show Saturday, and this is what she said. Yes, most of the red states, and some of the states that aren't red, have Republican General Assemblies because Republicans have worked hard at trying to maintain their numbers as delegates and as senators in their states. But they don't realize there's an undercurrent that they know nothing about. That if we can harness our votes in those states, we can make change.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the whole thing, is getting everybody out. They think they're the majority when actually a lot of those red states, the Republicans aren't the majority.
No, they're not the majority. No.
But they have this thing where people of color, especially Latinos and Hispanics, that might feel like even though they have legal status to be in this country, they scare them off the voting, because they're saying, well, if you go vote and this and that, you might get arrested and get deported. So you have a lot of that going on, you know. So there's a lot of work that's going to continue on being done between now and November of next year, and then for the 2024. You know, I think if we're successful, in 2022 to maintain, and then in 2024 make some great gains, that'll just really
blow them out.
Yeah,
it'll blow them out.
Yeah.
I believe that. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Look at the time, Reginald.
Yeah, we done talked ourselves into 9:29. It is.
You know, I love politics. Yeah, I can talk forever.
It's a great subject.
I thank you for asking me to sit in for Chara. I always enjoy it. Always. So what's your closing words?
We're just going to continue fighting. I mean, we really seriously got to get the churches involved, our communities involved. And we can't just sit on our butts because we can live in the suburbs now. We can eat anywhere we got to eat. You know, because they can flip the script on us because of the Supreme Court.
Like a light switch.
Yeah. And, you know, and you can't say, well, I don't think they will. We don't know. It's a 50-50 chance the Supreme Court could go anyway. And we don't have we can't beat them back.
Yeah. I don't think that we need to take those kind of chances. You know, we don't need to.
In our community.
Right. Right, right. Because I'm not going to nobody's fields again.
Yeah.
If we don't do what we have to do, that's the way it's going to start feeling,
Yeah.
like in the
Yeah.
fields. So I
Yeah.
ain't with it, and I hope y'all ain't with it either, because I am not going to do that mammy look. I can't.
Put your makeup on. Put your makeup on and go pick cotton.
Right. I can't. Mess up my
Yeah.
nails. Anyway, so great show. Again, I really
always
did enjoy it, and I'm hoping that everybody that has listened in and watched has also enjoyed the show. Make sure that share the show, like Reggie says. Share the show when you see that we're coming on. Share it to some of your friends on your Facebook friend list, because we really need to get the word out about truths that are going on with Blacks and communities worldwide, nationwide. And if we don't do that, then guess what? We have some folks that are left behind that don't need to be or didn't choose to be. But I think it's important that everybody tunes in to the show, because we're not going to give you no mess. I was going to say BS, but we're going to give you the truth. So thank you, Reggie. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And we got to keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
So make sure that you come on back here every Tuesday night here on Real World News TV with Reggie, Kearney, and Chara and Tappin. The show always starts at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Make sure that you follow them right here on Facebook under Real World News TV. You can get show updates and all of that good stuff. They even do some posts throughout the week, so you can see what's going on and possibly what they're going to be talking about. Make sure that if you want to catch up on some past shows, you can come right here to Facebook under Real World News TV and hit the video feed or video link, and you can choose whatever show that you might have missed or one that sounds interesting to you. So we do offer that to you. Make sure that you check us out on the website at hottopicstalkradio.com. Tomorrow night on Hot Topics Talk Radio with me and Yvonne Baker. Ugh, I haven't even finished writing this show, but it's going to be a good one. You know how we do it. It's always going to be sex. That's what all of our shows turn into, sex. So come on back tomorrow night on Hot Topics Talk Radio with me and Yvonne Baker. The show starts at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 9 Central, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. And Yvonne is flying in to Las Vegas, so she'll be right here. We'll be under the same roof. So make sure that you come on back tomorrow night. Thank you, Reggie. Love you, dude. Now I got to take all the banners and stuff down. Say peace again so I can get it done.
Peace. Hey, everyone, have a good night. Have a good one, man.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for joining in.